Providing a platform, that's the goal of our We Stand Together series. It's an initiative that we began after the death of George Floyd.
And tonight the series continues. Dennis Bland is the president of the Center for Leadership Development. I spoke with him this week about the organization and what needs to happen to forge change. The Center for Leadership Development has been around for more than 40 years. CLD, as it's called, aims to empower young African Americans in Indianapolis to pursue rewarding careers. Dennis Bland is the president and has been for 20 years. Okay, Dennis, so just for context, for people at home who maybe aren't aware, tell us a little bit about CLD.
Sure, and thank you for having me.
Sure.
The Center for Leadership Development was founded in 1977, when some community leaders got together and said, essentially, how do we create a program that helps African American youth dare to be aspirational? How do we get young people to not only dream and aspire to something higher, but how do we do that in a very intentional and systematic way so that the city of Indianapolis can ultimately develop a pipeline of African American youth achievement? So the organization started in 1977, offering one program to achieve that mission, putting young people on an academic, college, and career track so they can become professional business and community leaders. And 43 years later, we have 15 programs starting at the 4th grade level, and we have a college prep institute where we serve about 4,000 students and parents a year, trying to prepare them for success.
So you've been the president now for 20 years, but you were a part of this organization going farther back than that.
That's right. I actually had the opportunity to be blessed because of somebody else's vision. The organization started in 1977, and 5 years after its founding, I was a participant in the program while I was a student at Broadwell High School. And then after I finished the program and went to college, I then returned to the Center for Leadership Development and began volunteering. And so I volunteered for 13 years. From 87 to 2000, and then in 2000 I came to work at the center.
Good for you. You talked about Broad Ripple High School. I read a story about you when you were in school, that you got a grade that you didn't agree with. So what did you do?
Well, I think I just employed what they taught us at the Center for Leadership Development. Always be respectful, but learn how to be assertive and learn how to have supporting information, know how to advocate for yourself. And so it actually turned out that the teacher had just overlooked some of the supporting information that I had included in material, and so the teacher ended up changing the grade.
Wow. You brought all the work to him?
That's right.
And then teacher said, wow, I overlooked this.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the teacher was very gracious about it. So I'm glad I wasn't mean or hostile about it, but very respectful. But the Center for Leadership Development distinguishes assertiveness training, and they distinguish assertiveness skills versus aggressiveness or non-assertiveness. And then in that training, they really distinguish the types of behavior, some characteristics of the behavior, but then the outcomes and the ramifications and implications for each of the types of behavior. And so you get these really real-life circumstances and scenarios that you get a chance to practice, and that was one of those situations at the high school where there was a chance to apply what they were teaching us.
Good for you. Good for you. Take me back a few months to the George Floyd incident. What was your reaction?
Stupefied, alarmed, shocked, hurt, confused, befuddled. I think it sent a lot of people searching. I think it evoked some deep thought, some deep contemplation about life, about society, about civility, about our community, about our city, our state, our nation, our world, our culture. It prompted a lot of deep thinking and deep reflection.
We've seen videos like this before, though, over the years. Why do you think specifically this incident prompted all of that?
Well, it's probably a combination of factors. One, you had COVID that is taking place and has been going on in the pandemic, and so the heightened stress, the heightened anxiety. You then also have the history of racism, so you have issues that are mounting and building. And even if there is not an overt reaction, you know that there are some responses that are happening within people, and you never know where ultimately there will be that straw. But then I think there was also just the very visceral nature in which we saw, and people had an opportunity to witness an incident that resulted so tragically when it seemed to be, well, the person was already apprehended. So it shocked all level of reasoning. And so I think a combination of those factors just really contributed to the powder keg ultimately being lit.
What were your thoughts on the protests that followed?
I'm a lawyer by training, so I understand the power of protest. I understand the First Amendment right and the power of that right, and I even respect, even more so, the founders who would actually put that into the Constitution as a right. And so I think one of the challenges for our country, and as we reflect, is now what is protest, and then what is morality? What is protest, and then what is vandalism and criminality that actually takes the focus off of your very legitimate and righteous causes?
Where do we go from here, Dennis? Do you like any of the changes that have occurred since the George Floyd incident?
Well, I think that's a sobering question. Where do we go? I think it starts with a fundamental question: where do we want to go? And in light of everything that's going on in society, I hope people who are influencers are saying, in light of all that has transpired in society, will we take a step or will we take an enormous leap? Will we make some minor changes or adjustments, or will we do a dramatic shift? Will we pivot as a society? Will we really use this occasion and say that there's been so much heartache, there's been so much pain, there's been so much difficulty, we can't allow this opportunity to go by. And so let us really be visionary, let us be self-critical, and let us be really thoughtful about how we can really use this moment and transform a community from a racial standpoint.
Since you're a mentor and have been for quite some time, what do you say to some of the younger people who are in your organization about the George Floyd incident, about race in America right now, and maybe for the folks at home who aren't a part of your organization, what do you want them to know?
Well, I say to the young people that there are so many opportunities to really learn. For example, one of the opportunities that's being surfaced is the opportunity to learn about leadership, both ineffective leadership and effective leadership. There's an opportunity to message to young people that we can learn the right ways, the most effective ways to lead. We can learn about leadership that's most efficacious. There's the leader, and we have the examples through history. If you look at the messages of Mahatma Gandhi, if you look at the messages of Martin Luther King, if you look at the messages of Nelson Mandela and others, they were peace messages. Make your point, but make your point in a way so that you actually gain friends and not perpetuate violence and get enemies. Those are great lessons to teach young people. At a more fundamental level, there's an opportunity to message to young people that your life really is precious, that your life really is sacred, and using that as a foundational starting point. Young people, how do we do everything within our power to actually then cultivate and empower that precious sacred life? At CLD, we have what's called Principles for Success: character development, educational excellence, leadership effectiveness, community service, and career achievement. Our opportunity is to then empower young people through these 5 values. If you grow in character formation, if you grow in educational excellence, if you grow in leadership, you really understand leadership and begin to understand that it's more than a word, and that leadership can go left or right, good or bad, but understand the force and the power of leadership as an agency for change. If you understand the power of service in giving and making community better through your involvement, instead of creating problems and chaos through your presence. If you learn of the power of career and purpose and focus, if you're empowered in that way, then you actually have an opportunity to grow and thrive and excel, but then you also have an opportunity to then lead movements in an effective way.
And remember, you can listen to our We Stand Together podcast anytime and find tonight's episode and others online at our allindianapodcastnetwork.com.